Author and intimacy expert Laura M. Brotherson, host of the Marital Intimacy Show, educates and inspires women to create a mutually fulfilling, intimate, and passionate marital relationship, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually.
Welcome to the Marital Intimacy Show. My name is Laura Brotherson. Thanks for tuning in today. Well, we get to talk about sex and intimacy today. How fun is that? The topic of this show is 6 Tips to Strengthen Your Marriage Sexually, Part 2. In Part 1 of 6 Tips to Strengthen Your Marriage Sexually, we talked about 1. Making sex a priority, 2. Getting educated sexually, and 3. Talking about the sexual relationship with your spouse. Now in this show, we're going to continue with tips 4, 5, and 6, and they are, number 4, overcoming inhibitors, number 5, being playful, and number 6, making your sexual relationship a matter of prayer. So let's get started. Especially in the sexual relationship of marriage, it can be difficult to improve that relationship if there are barriers or inhibiting factors getting in the way. So, our 4th tip for strengthening marriages sexually is to overcome intimacy inhibitors, such as negative thoughts, fears, or relationship issues. All right, so what are some of the potential barriers to sexual intimacy in marriage? Well, there are many. They can be things such as sexual thoughts or feelings, like from past conditioning and experiences. It can be fears and insecurities or relationship issues that affect the emotional connection, which we know is the necessary foreplay for many wives. Well, because sex begins in the mind for most women, mental clutter or mental barriers can get in the way and must be removed to allow one's sexuality to blossom. Until the mind is freed up to respond positively and passionately to sexual intimacy, it may be difficult for the body to respond fully. So, to start with, how do you overcome these mental barriers? Well, one of the best ways is something called journal therapy. It's a great self-help tool for anyone who wants to improve their thought patterns about sex, or anything else for that matter, and to simply learn more about oneself. I recommend you get yourself a simple and inexpensive notebook. I call it a self-discovery notebook, and begin spending some time pondering and, more importantly, writing about maybe these following questions. Number 1, what have I been taught about sex? What messages have I internalized? Number 2, what memories and experiences have I had that may contribute to my current beliefs, thoughts, and feelings about sex? Number 3, what do I like about sex? Number 4, what don't I like about sex that might be getting in the way of fully engaging sexually? Number 5, what do I like about my body? Number 6, what don't I like about my body that might be getting in the way of fully engaging sexually? Number 7, what do I think about my spouse regarding our sexual relationship? Are my thoughts and feelings generally positive and productive, or do they tend to be negative and counterproductive? Number 8, what relationship issues might be getting in our way? Number 9, what things could I focus on about my spouse that would support a more close and connected, intimate relationship? And for many of us, it may also be helpful to ask ourselves, what do I think God thinks about sex? What would He like me to know or learn about it? So as you begin to uncover your underlying thoughts and beliefs that create your sexual foundation, you may begin to identify some things that aren't terribly conducive to a healthy and passionate, intimate relationship. Maybe you've identified things like, I just don't like sex, or it's too much effort, or my husband never seems to think about anything but sex. These thoughts may be true or real for you, but you would need to decide if they are helpful toward feeling romantic toward your spouse and or if you'd like to make things better. So if you do want things to be better, then I tell people to use the back of their notebook now to reprogram these unhealthy, negative, or unproductive thoughts and beliefs into more positive and productive ones. So the 3 thoughts I mentioned previously would be converted into things like, I thoroughly enjoy being sexually intimate with my husband, and I enjoy the opportunity to fully relax and slip into another world through lovemaking. And lastly, you would turn my husband never seems to think about anything but sex into, I'm so glad I turned my husband on. It makes me feel so loved to know that he desires me. As you begin to create this positive beliefs to reprogram list, and as you set an intention to really change your thinking, you will then begin to see your feelings change as well, because feelings follow our thoughts and beliefs. Because women are wired for emotional connection as part of their sexuality, difficult relationship issues can be a real struggle for women to respond favorably in the sexual dimension of the marriage. One of the best ways to overcome relationship issues is to talk about them openly and honestly. But if you've tried that and have not been successful, then you may either need to try some heart-to-heart letters or emails, since nonverbal communication can sometimes be more effective for difficult or heated issues, or you may need to seek the help of a marriage-friendly counselor. Just on a side note, if I could just encourage couples to get some help while their challenges are still small, that would be so wonderful. Too often, couples don't get help until one or the other of them has almost checked out emotionally or physically. So, if women can help their husbands understand how the relationship issues are connected to their sexual feelings, it may be easier for both of them to put in the necessary effort to work through the issues. But women too need to understand that sometimes the best way to overcome relationship issues is to say nothing and let their bodies do the talking. Now that is a language that most men can readily understand, and it is often a key to open them up emotionally in order to address the relationship issues more effectively. Remember, women tend to need the relationship issues to be cleared up before they feel sexual, whereas men tend to need the sexual connection before they are as ready to go into the emotional issues. As women really learning to cultivate and nurture positive thoughts about ourselves, our bodies, our sexuality, our spouse, our marriage, etc., is necessary to fully embrace and enjoy the sexual relationship with our spouse. Sexy really is a state of mind, and for many women it must be cultivated. It's kind of like a learned behavior. Men's primary challenge is to bridle or master their sexuality, and the general challenge for women is to awaken and cultivate their sexuality. Technically, our sexuality has more to do with how we feel about ourselves than anything else. So overcoming our intimacy inhibitors, our body image issues, our insecurities, etc., requires accepting ourselves, flaws and all. A healthy acceptance of yourself and your sexuality sends a message that says, I like who I am, and I'm happy to share it with you. That's what we're looking for here. While overcoming inhibitors may tend to the heavier side of things, our next tip definitely lightens things up a bit. So number 5 is, relax, have fun, and be playful with each other. What's missing from a lot of intimate relationships is fun and playfulness. In addition, many women have a difficult time simply relaxing. In our fast-paced world of getting things done, many of us have not learned how to just be fully present in the moment. Sometimes I will have to give homework to women to practice doing nothing. I tell them to practice just sitting there on the grass, taking in the blue of the sky. Practice just laying on your bed, breathing deeply. Learning to relax is an important skill in lovemaking, to let the ecstasy of the sensual pleasure and passion sweep you away. So some homework here might be to learn how to relax and focus on your breathing and/or your bodily sensations. This can help women immensely to learn how to surrender more easily to the sexual experience. I remember how difficult this was for me when I realized that as a doer, I didn't know how to just be. That was an uphill learning curve for me, and I still work at it all the time. The sexual crucible in my marriage was the vehicle or the opportunity for me to learn to be more whole or complete and more balanced between my doingness and my beingness. That was a worthy life lesson in and of itself, not to mention how it blessed my marriage and the intimate relationship with my husband. So, enough about relaxing and being for now. Let's talk about having fun and being more playful. So what are some ways you can think of to be more playful in your relationship? Think about it for a minute. So how about sneaking a wink or a kiss? How about giving your husband a sly grin, then chasing him around the room? How about pinching his bottom as he walks by? How about just making sure you have a date night each week? I mean, that alone can do wonders for the fun and playfulness in a marriage. I loved this story of a woman who would mercilessly tease her husband sometimes. She wrote me the following. I have found that flirting with my husband can be so much fun and very helpful to me in cultivating my own sexual feelings towards him. I used to hate it when he'd try to flirt with me or be sexual toward me in any way outside the bedroom. It made me feel like an object. But now that has changed. It has become a frequent joke for me to say, "Hey babe, you want to get lucky?" At first, my husband would look at me with this surprised, almost unbelieving look that said, "Are you kidding me? Are you really serious? Now don't kid me about that." Over time, his response developed into a simple, "Yeah, sure, I want to get lucky." He got even wiser when he began to say, "I already am." I especially loved throw in the offer when there is no chance of follow-through, just to torment him, like on the way to church or right after we've already been intimate. This playfulness has made our relationship so much more fun and helps me keep my intimate fires flickering throughout the day. Don't you just love that? So call your spouse during the day and playfully tease him in some way. Practice looking at your spouse with more loving and longing eyes. See the good in him and the things that made you fall in love with him in the first place. Develop the habit of thinking intimately enticing thoughts about your spouse. Hey, just turn up some music and dance together. Whatever you can think of to renew the fun and playfulness in your relationship is what we're looking for here. This is an area that may be difficult for some women, but if it's difficult for you to be playful with your husband, then it's especially important to work on this dimension to create a more relaxed and playful mood in your marriage. This brings us to our 6th tip for strengthening marriages sexually. Number 6, make your sexual relationship a matter of prayer. For some people, it may seem too out there to bring God into this, but we tend to forget that God is who created the whole sexual relationship in the first place. He's the master builder of our bodies and our attraction to each other. I assure you that He is very interested in not only the success of our marriages, but also in the success of our sexual relationship in our marriages. He has created this most profound and ultimately fulfilling gift of sexual togetherness for a husband and wife, that I can imagine that He is greatly saddened when so many of His children do not fully understand or enjoy this marital gift. You know, just thinking about praying for sexual help in our marriages may seem like a daunting task. But think about it. Not only does God know more about lovemaking than anyone else, but He also knows you and your spouse better than anyone else. He is supremely suited to provide the wisdom, the insights, the direction to certain books or counselors or whatever to help you experience all that the intimate relationship with your spouse can be. When my husband and I decided to go to the Lord to make our intimate relationship a matter of prayer, I admit it was a little bit disconcerting to ask Him about such private and seemingly embarrassing stuff. But I could imagine Him now, smiling as we sincerely desired to understand how to create what He surely intended for both husband and wife. Sometimes it might be hard to ask for the specific help that you need, But remember, God already knows what we need before we even ask. The sexual relationship in marriage has been accurately referred to as a sexual crucible. It is one of the most challenging and thorough marital learning grounds God created for a husband and a wife. Certainly, soliciting the help of a loving God who created our sexuality is a potentially wise idea. The inevitable differences between a husband and wife, especially within the sexual relationship, require some divine help. Often, very ingrained ways of thinking have to change, and ways of relating have to change. This is why the atoning power of God is often necessary for a man and a woman to come together to create the kind of sexual relationship God intended. As beings with a mind, body, and spirit, you can't just leave out the spiritual dimension. And though we won't get into too much of it here, please note that there is a spiritual side to sexual relating that we haven't even touched yet. Lovemaking can be one of the most spiritual experiences of our lives when the intent and the spirit of the lovemaking is right. I mean, think about it. As a husband and wife join their bodies together, they also join their spirits. I do believe that if you partner with God, He will make your efforts exponentially more effective in creating an emotionally, spiritually, and sexually satisfying relationship. You know, people search the world over, trying to find something that can compare to that which is found only in the intimate, committed, and passionate sexual relationship of marriage. This is the real deal. No substitute or counterfeit can ever truly satisfy our need for human and divine connection, like the intimate relationship of marriage. I often think of this song by Gary Allan called A Feelin' Like That talks about searching the world over for a feeling that I think is only fully available in the oneness of marriage. The words go like this. Off the coast of Australia, I dove way down deep. For all that I saw of that great barrier reef, it was nothing. Compared to you, it was nothing. I got lightning in my veins and thunder in my chest, all tangled up with you, and trying to catch my breath. I've been chasing that sensation halfway round the world and looking back on what we had. Well, I've done it all and I've seen it all, but I can't find a feeling like that. He goes on, when I started pushing 30, it started pushing back. Well, how was I to know till now that you'd be such a hard act to follow? Now nothing seems to follow. I got lightning in my veins and thunder in my chest, all tangled up with you and trying to catch my breath. I've been chasing that sensation halfway round the world and looking back on what we had. Well, I've done it all and I've seen it all, but I can't find a feeling like that. I think what we're all searching for is exactly what can be found in the intimate relationship of marriage. It truly is the ultimate high of life, though I recognize it can also be pretty trying at times too. I encourage us all to more fully develop our sexuality, our intimate relationship with our spouse, and our sexual enjoyment in marriage. This is what people are looking for, to fill the emptiness and the hollow highs of all sorts of superficial and counterfeit attempts at what is available in marriage, if we will seek it and work at it. So, there you have it, part 2 of 6 tips to strengthen your marriage sexually. In our first show, we discussed making sex a priority, getting educated sexually, and talking about sex with our spouse. And in this show, the second show, we covered number 4, overcoming inhibitors, number 5, being playful and learning to relax, and number 6, making sex a matter of prayer. So here's your homework. Number 1, choose even one of these areas to work on, and just see how it can bless your life and strengthen your marriage relationship. Number 2, share with us your thoughts about this podcast and any additional insights you may have gained about this topic. You can post them here on our blog so that others can benefit, or you can email them directly to me at Laura, Laura, at strengtheningmarriage.com. I always welcome your comments and questions. And lastly, if this podcast has been helpful to you, I encourage you to share it with others so that we can all work together to strengthen marriages. Well, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you learned some helpful things that will allow you to enjoy your spouse and your sexual relationship more fully. You can also learn more at our website, www.strengtheningmarriage.com. In our next marital intimacy show about jump-starting your marriage, we'll take on the questions and challenges of one of our listeners, since his concerns and dilemmas are similar to that which many others face. We hope you'll be back for more insights and inspiration for strengthening your marriage intimately. Until then, this is Laura Brotherson with the Marital Intimacy Show. Have a great day, and go tell your husband or wife how much you love them.